happens or a new medal is instituted, I go out and I find those things right away, so that we're not doing the same thing that the Navy Museum did. If there's something new going on, we're on top of it. The lady in back.
What branches and ranks do you have?
We have all branches and all ranks, from slick sleeves to admirals and generals. And that's another reason why we will overtake the Air Force Museum. I mean, most of us are Air Force vets. We love airplanes. I love the C-5. That was the first plane that flew me out of the desert. I'll always love that plane.
It flew me to the desert, so.
I have no sympathy for you. I took a C-130, which, until I came home from Bosnia, I never made a successful C-130 flight without getting sick. But not everybody loves the Air Force, right? Because we have Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. We also have the Merchant Marine. You know, and I've said many times that if somebody walks in the door and they don't see something from the 4077 Purple Widget Company, guaranteed they are going to give you grief. So when you come here, it doesn't matter what branch of the service you were in. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, black, white, red, yellow, whether you're a Muslim, Christian, or Jew, we've got something. The secret is our volunteers need to know where those things are so that they don't get caught with their pants down.
Do you have things from opposing sides in each of the display areas?
Sure.
We do, and there are some museums that won't do that. There's well, they're folded into MAP's Military Museum.
Give some examples of.
Well, I mean, you can start with the Revolutionary War. Now, obviously, those are reproductions because originals are ultra rare and terribly
So
expensive.
what about World War II?
World War II, we have plenty of Japanese, Italian, and German items. We've got North Vietnamese and Viet Cong items. We've got stuff from North Korea, which is extremely rare. That rarely comes on the market. That, of course, I had to just go out and buy because nobody's going to walk in with a North Korean uniform. World War I, the opposing side is heavily represented. And, you know, we've been asked, well, why do you do that? And like the museum I was telling you about before, they've got a big glass display case, and all these war trophies that vets have brought in are just dumped in a pile, right? As a way of insulting, you know, the World War II Germans and Japanese. And, you know, that's their thing, fine. But even when I was in the desert, and certainly when I came home, I'm interested in the guys who were trying to kill me, right? Because they can have a really adverse effect on your life. And the people coming in here, we have not had one person complain that, oh, why is there a Japanese flag up here? And if they did, hey, you're unhappy? Gosh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't hide history. There were, you know, we were fighting people, right? How could we not have that as part of the story? I mean, otherwise we might as well have been fighting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, right?
Tell them about the Amy's class today that you talked to about the Holocaust.
Well, that was an experience. So, you
What
know,
grade were they?
sophomores, 10th graders. So when I was in high school, and I'm sure when you guys were in high school, you know, everybody faced the front, you listened to the teacher. There was no, you know, there was no electronic sorcery back in those days, sorcery back in those days. And today, when we were walking in, my daughter's like, well, I need to warn you before you go in. Okay, why? Well, things are pretty lax, right? So you may hear some students swearing. So just kind of be prepared. That dog would never hunt when I was in school. But fortunately, all the students were polite. You know, they listened. And schools today, you know, they're sitting in groups of 3, they all have computers. The classroom instructions are projected on the wall, but my daughter can actually see what they're typing as they're writing their papers. So she knows who's working and who's not working. But the environment is completely different.
And tell them about, how was the talk about the Holocaust received? Did they listen? This is the next generation coming up.
Each one of them had to write down 5 interesting things, and when I heard that, I thought, man, I don't know how I'm gonna come out of this one, because I find a lot of stuff interesting that other people will just cock their head. But they paid attention. At the end, we had a good question and answer session. So, you know, that's another responsibility of museums. You have to have that outreach to young people, because clearly they're not doing a deep dive on these things. They're getting the 35,000 foot view and they move on. So it was refreshing to be back in a classroom and to, you know, talk to them about stuff that they're not going to hear any other place. All right, anyone else?
We had a group of homeschoolers that came in. They were fascinated. They spent like 2 hours here, and they just couldn't get enough of the things. So, you know, we've got kids coming along.
Last year, we had a group of homeschoolers, they came up from Kentucky. Yeah, awesome. The kids love it.
So we're doing our part. You guys need to do yours. Tell people where we're at, what we do. And if you have friends at the Air Force Museum, tell them to watch their back. All right, so thanks for coming out on this, as usual, rainy night. There's got to be something about Wednesday presentation nights.
Yeah.
Well, you can't hide from the weather gods. They always know, so. All right.
You get no gift.